We have Vaishnavi Gopalan with us today. And unlike most of us, she's not an auditor. She's an internal auditor. That means that when she processes her accounts payables or travel and expense payments, she ensures that they go correctly. So before the payment is made, she audits or reviews the transactions, and then she makes it happen. So she is basically in the shared services group, so to say, of Cognizant. She's got more than 12 years of experience and has been with Cognizant technology all through her career. So she is steeped with the Cognizant culture of excellence that they have. She's got experience in varied areas of finance and accounting, including GL review and variance analysis, consolidation, entity accruals, capex accounting, a hardcore accountant at Kerr. And she played a key role in the PeopleSoft GL module implementation, providing key inputs from legacy to PSF. So in that sense, she understands technology, she understands the human dimension of technologies and the basically the flexibility that one needs to have when one works with technology. From a core accounting professional, she moved to travel and expense processing, thereby managing Cognizant's global travel and expense process involving 25 to 30 core countries. They have a team size of 2.25 lakh employees, and the bulk of that processing is been done by her and the team of 30 members. She was part of the Center of Excellence for T&E and involved in technology enhancements and policy updation, functionally with varied functions like Oracle services, global mobility and assimilations, and HR. Now she's moved on to the T&E Analytics and post-pay team with focuses on key areas of travel and related spending. I think she's going to be sharing with us her experiences of using IDEA in the area of travel and expense. With that brief words, Vaishnavi.
Okay. So I actually wanted to make this cheeky dialogue, but I'm sorry that Archana ma'am had to leave. So what I wanted to say is I'm starting with the first speaker of the day. She's got some 35 plus years of experience, and my age doesn't even match her experience. So, I wanted to make this punch dialogue, Rajnikant's dialogue, because I belong to the city of Chennai, but then she's not there. So if you happen to see her, please tell this. So quickly, 5 minutes, I just wanted to relate myself to all the speakers. We started off with Rafael. So Rafael mentioned that this was his first presentation in English, and I wanted to say as the same thing. This is my first presentation, be it English or any language. So please, in case you find something odd, so just please, pardon me for that. I could relate myself, Jairam, I'm removing Jairam and Manish from this scope because they are anyways always speaking about this day in and day out. Next is Sarathi and Krishna. When you were talking about audit being part of, doing IDEA, that's something which we could relate to. So I was part of the T&E operations. We audited lot number of reports, and then I moved on to the post-pay analytics team. Then we had 3 speakers, of which I could relate myself with Savio a lot, because he did mention about his team size getting reduced, and ultimately it came to one female member who actually had an inclination and who also had an interest towards it, though I'm not technically sound. I'm a chartered accountant with some 12 plus years of experience, but then I found this to be my calling. And the reason why I moved to process from accounting was one fine day my VP felt that, there's nobody in T&E processing. So it was on 26th of January 2012 that my role came to T&E processing. I remember that date so distinctly well because 25th he calls me and 27th I have to take charge, and I had no KT whatsoever. So I developed everything from scratch, right from, starting the process, and now I'm into analytics and post-pay. So that's something which I'm really proud about. I should first mention about my company as well. I jumped onto the topic. So talking about Cognizant, we are the global leader in business and technology, and we help providing services to our clients by bringing the future of work to life, and that's today. It's something which we want them to do it in the future. We want that happening. We want that to happen today. And as you all would know, Frank, being a CEO, he always talks, as in last 2 years, it's always about going digital in Cognizant. So by going digital, we're saying that we're going to do digital technology for our clients and customers. So we thought, why not keep our house clean first? So we took our first step saying that let's do something on idea or something on automation. So this month, we are celebrating our first anniversary. It was last year in August when we started off with the idea. So I'm happy that I'm not an infant, at least somewhere in between. But then we have progress from where we started off. So Cognizant has a revenue of around 12,400 million. I just wrote it down so that I don't goof up the numbers, just in case someone goes out and says, and I'm being representing Cognizant here. So why is it that, all throughout the day, there's one benefit that you have the session at the end is everybody's already set the context, so you don't have to explain everything all over again. The disadvantage is all your points are already stolen, so there's nothing left out for you to talk about. So pardon me if you find me repetitive, but I'm talking about something which is being repetitive and you are automating that. So we'll start off with, why do we need scripting? Okay, so what, where, when, and why of scripting. What is scripting all about? I'm not someone who is from a technical background. I've not learned VB scripting or I've not learned idea scripting. It's just that the logic or the thought process and my domain expertise is helping me weed out those additional unwanted steps, saying that, can I do away with this? You do this PERT analysis and all that, saying that, is this step relevant? How do I improvise it? So, it's the basic logic, common sense from where I've gone through it. So, first is what, where, when, and why. I thought if at least I couldn't speak, my PPT should be good enough, so I hope you find it interesting. Pardon me if you don't see any ladies here, because I found this to be the best one. You see only a gent or a gentleman throughout my PPT. Nothing to do with women empowerment and all that. We are already empowered, so no worries around that. So what is scripting all about? It's basically a method of performing a series of tasks, which Prafulla also was explaining. And it's better if it's sequential. Because if you're doing arbitrary kind of steps, then you're not very sure what is your thought process is. So you have to get your thought process right. And then you jot it down as your sequential steps, saying that this is what the step 1 is, step 2 is, etc. So that's the simple of what. Where do all the projects, as in I guess most of you, since you're users of idea, you would know where this gets stored, just for the benefit of the ones who are new. So anything that's getting created as a macro, there's a folder called macro. We have various folders, like you have imports, exports, etc. So there's a macro folder where this gets stored. So when should we do the scripting? Now we've been harping on this topic, saying that, repetitive task and all that. So basically repetitive could be applied to various areas, like I can tell you one example of T&E is where you apply the same set of steps on a monthly basis. You do the same join function, you do the same appending function, all the functions are the same. So is there any value add in preparing the data? No. But there'll be value add in analyzing the data. So we're saying that cut out those repetitive steps, just automate them, and you just do it once. The whole step. So the first time when you do it, obviously it's going to take time because you have to think through. And when you apply that, it's going to be, you just click it and you get the data. So same logic is being applied to the different data. You reperform the previous work again and again and combine the multiple tasks. So say for example, this criteria. When you're trying to apply the same criteria, say you have a data, which is for T&E assuming, and it has, say, personal expenses. So you have to apply your criteria saying that remove the personal expenses, join the data, you would want to convert. See, you will have global company where currency is not fixed. So you would want to convert everything to USD. So these are all some repetitive steps which you'll keep on repeating. But just that the source file will keep on changing. So all of those areas are potential areas where you can automate. Next is why. Obviously, everybody's spoken about time and obviously effort, because it's a no-brainer. It's just the first person who does. So again, there was one question saying that, I think I forgot who was that, who was saying that, do you have to have a technical expertise when you're doing this? How does the data go from this person to other person? I guess you asked this question. So how is this one person doing? So it's not about passing the data. It's about, yes, when you're developing something, you're obviously speaking to the business user, be it yourself or you're getting inputs from them. So obviously when you're trying to say that, does this product match your requirement? So you have to go back to that person. Assuming you're coming here, right, for the shopping. And now that you're going to get married, so you have to get something for your wife. So obviously you're going to ask her what is the product which you're looking for. So you will obviously ask the requirement from her, what is it? Is this something which you like? So you buy that product. So I just took a real life example, nothing that, I'm just trying to relate myself. So it's just that you go back to the user, you start from the user, you go back to the user. It's always about closed looping. If you don't do that, anyway, this is not going to be successful. Better visuals. Yeah, we talked about discovery, we talked about passport and all that. We talked about visualization. I love that. In fact, we actually, I like the tree map or the heat map. That's something which we've never seen. We're all seeing the board data. As in, I come from a pure accountant background, so we just see the numbers, pivots, and tables, right? So that the heat map is actually a very good analysis. Like, I'll give you one example where we used it. You have the count of travels and the value of travel, and you match it with the designation. So when you're trying to do that through heat map, you'll get to know which designation or which category or class of people travel the most, or where you have low value many transactions. So those are some areas where you can focus. Low value many transactions could be a separate area of analysis, whereas high value premium transactions. So there is where you can have the travel team coming and saying that, did your travel was booked in 7 days in advance or 10 days in advance? Did you get the best fare? All of that. So those are some areas where you can do this. So it's always pleasing to the eyes when you have some nice color, right? Life is all about color. So when you see something nice through visuals, it's easy to understand it. Not that the numbers won't help, but then when you're used to numbers, a color or a particular format can always help you in digesting the data much faster. So how do we do that? So how do we do the scripting all about? So next is, I'll come to the next step. So we saw the what, where, when, and why, and now we're seeing that how. So first is the naming convention. So I think there was one team, I forgot the name, which had, or was it the sir who was on the Economist when we were talking about, I forgot his name. Yes, yeah. So I think the script had egg PO, egg PA, so which meant that's how so it's the same PO, same PA, and same set of people. So his naming convention was egg PO, matlab one PO, the same PO. So the naming is important for someone to understand. So the person who is doing it, yes, it's a little regional, but everyone in his team will know what is egg PO, egg PA. So the point here is you can have standard set of naming convention, and such that you don't have to keep on changing the name of the query or the macro which you're developing. And easily identifiable. The example of egg PO was for the easily identifiable, where you say that I know month on month, this macro refers to this step of mine, so name it easily. Don't use too many abbreviated versions so that you don't even know. So assuming you're doing this role today, there could be someone else who is doing it on your behalf, or you might even give this script to another team of yours. You can actually give a business proposition. So you don't think yourself as, IT analyst. So you can start developing products for, within your own organization, or you can bring in an own product of yours. So these are all some cases where you can say that your macro can be easily identifiable by the name which you're referring to. And organize when multiple scripts are used. Yeah, so there's one slide which is later. So what we're trying to say is there could be complex cases where you have many small scripts, or there could be multiple scripts. A lot of people will say, chalo, we'll start off one and we'll start recording and everything will come in one single script. But it could be a case where there is a subscript or there's one step in that whole script which can be used across your other queries or the other macros. So the point here is try and have your steps organized and say that this is what my first step is, this is what my second step is, third, and so on and so forth. So yes, first time it may not be right for all of us. We took a lot of time. We took a lot of time till we actually got it right, and I was the only one who could do it, and now I have a team of just 2 more members who have started doing it. But then someone has to take that pain to actually go through these steps. Again, then the question comes of your business domain or the knowledge, saying that, do you know which step comes first? Next is, I did mention about helps in transitioning, and so the last thing is what we also follow is incorporate the year and month. So some of them don't prescribe it, saying that don't make year and month because then it becomes rigid. But then I have been using year and month so that I can easily identify the data. So for example, you're analyzing an accounted data. Now I mean accounted is something, you can use that in AP parlance or in TNE where you have anything which is approved and paid, means accounted. So I want to identify myself saying that this is an accounted data for the specific month, these are the steps. Though the steps remains the same, I try and keep the name of the output in such a way so that I understand the data, what does the data represent. Abbreviate. So we've mentioned this, The last point is something which I really loved about the comments. So how do you, so each and every step of yours, now, okay, so assuming there's one person who's doing, Vaishnavi is doing the file, right? I would have had my certain thought process, which is something very specific to me, though it's not, it's based on the company policy and process, but I would have had a distinct thought process because I have that business knowledge. So I would put a comment there extensively and try and say that, why did I carry this step? There could be an X person who could say that, why is this step? It's not required, it's redundant, but this step could be in future, or it could be a specific small step which has an impact in your last set of step or something. So it's always better to put comments, like you have it in PPT as well, you put the comments, right? So it's always good to put the comments so that you would know why each step was carried. How to organize? So everyone awake? Yeah? So far? Right, okay. How to organize the script. Now what we saw was what, where, when, why, how do we prepare the script. Next is organizing. Organizing is something which we've been studying right from our BCom days, right? It's been a separate subject in management and all that. It's basically how do you put right thing at the right place at the right time. So you have to organize things so that retrieval of information becomes easier. It could be just one day, your CFO calls saying that, can you please tell me how many duplicates did you see in the month of January because of so and so. So you should have the data organized. Yes, you would have the data somewhere, but then the speed in which it's been asked, the times that you might even fumble and you don't realize where is it. So you have to ensure that your data is organized. So you start off with the basic steps. It's always the same 4 steps. So you start off with planning. Objective. I remember when I had come from a user training, Manish always spoke about the objective, the end goal. I was the one who gave the right answer, so I still remember that. So it's what is it, where you started from, how do you plan your work, what do you need? It's as simple as if I want to prepare, say, malai kofta, how do I prepare malai kofta? How should I plan for malai kofta? So your ingredients is next step of import of data. So first I know what I want. Next is what are all the ingredients which I want to bring in. Next is preparation. So how much should I boil? How much should I saute? How much should I? So basically preparation is how good is your data? How much of it is usable? How much of it is not usable? I think Prafulla's team also spoke about huge data, right? 30 MB, 30 GB. So is everything consumable? Do you want, say, like for example, if you have to put potato, you're going to peel the potato. So do you need the peel of the potato? No. So similarly, there could be some fields which are not required. So you will have to remove those fields saying that these are something which I don't want. So you're preparing the data for doing the analysis. Next is the analysis. That's where I would think that yes, you need the business domain knowledge, but it could also be a step where there could be a certain bit of technical expertise helps you a lot. You don't have to go and depend on another person saying that this step is not working for me in the script, can you please help me? So the basics there, if you have the basics, you can actually rule it. You don't have to be really an expert. Yes, being an expert, you can go to specific tools like you have ClickView, you've got ACL, Tableau. I've heard a lot of people, conventional users of ACL are always loyal to ACL, as in I've never seen them coming to IDEA. I have people in my office who use Tableau religiously, as in they never even come to IDEA. Say visual script, oh no, oh sorry, who's going to look at it? I'm going to look at only the idea. So you have certain set of people who are always towards one set. So you have to determine how easy or how good these data is, and then you carry out these steps. Next is, so now we'll go into each and every steps of organizing, saying that how should the input, again, the same thing where you're talking about the input file, the naming convention. So every month you input the file. It's going to be stored irrespective of where it's going to be stored, but it's easier when you have the same name so that you know that this is the file which I have to input. So you're saying that rather than being very, very specific, you can have a little generic data saying that this is accounted. Next is on the format. So this is where I had a point. I don't remember who had asked this question. So when you're looking at the format, sorry, so what exactly we mean by the format is, what is the data format? So I have faced a situation where you have, in a particular month, the date will be in character format, whereas in some months, the date is going to be actually date format. I have actually ended up spending hours on doing the same step again because I didn't do this check of the data format. So as far as my experience, it doesn't matter which order your data is. What matters is the format the right way. And there could be huge, and we don't have a direct access of, reaching out to the server and getting the data. We actually have dumps coming in from our technical team, and then we analyze the data. So before you actually start off, please ensure that the format is right. So all the date fields are in the date format, the amounts are in the number format, etc. So that's why it's very important, because at the end, after you finish all the steps, it could be too late for you to start over again. And yeah, that's about the format and data type. Next is, this is something which is very important. I don't know if you faced it, for people who have huge amount of data. And when you're using a join function, right? Have you noticed that when you join a file, you get another new file with the same size? Correct? So if, for example, I'm just joining 3 more columns, I'll get a bigger file. And I'll do this step again and again till I reach my final file, which could be the, say, 7th step. So in the intermediary, there'll be some 6 files which would have got generated, right? So you will have to analyze whether do you need all the files which were the intermediary files, or do you need the last file. If you're convinced that it's only the last file and you're fine with everything, all the steps which have been carried out, you can then write a script to delete those files which have been intermediately saved. So, but please do not, I would suggest, please do not do it right soon you finish it. Please wait till your end result comes in, and then you can delete the unwanted intermediary files, because each file is going to be the same MB. So you can weed them out and reduce the storage capacity. This is definitely going to have a better performance. Next is minimal changes. Yeah. So what happens is, I to some extent do the manual intervention, because IT in our company doesn't allow complete automation, where someone talked about you can actually schedule your queries, right? Coming and saying that every morning you have these queries which are scheduled, or exceptions which are being reported. That's not possible in our company, because we do not have access to the direct data. So to some extent, we have a manual intervention where we select the data where we want this to be run, and the same steps, whatever the steps are there, those steps run and we get the output. So you will have to balance saying that how much of it I wanted to automate, and how much of it is something which I'm okay to do it manually. So if you want something to be done manually right from the step of import, we can do that. I'll show you when I'm towards the end. But if you're saying that it's just the first step, I don't want the import to be manual, but I want the import to be manual, I can select the file and the rest of the steps can carry on. So you will have to decide where you want to balance it. And all of you know, right, where the output gets stored? It's stored in the export folder, like just the way we have the macro folder. I initially took time to actually, how many of you are maybe you could have done, how many of you know which folder is for what in IDEA? Most of you would know it. I found it very difficult in the first 1 or 2 months, because I didn't know where exactly it was storing, like within C it was in users, in that my documents, in that IDEA documents, in that IDEA project, and that's how I finally go. So, sometimes it takes time for you to actually understand, but then Jairam did explain me that you can actually go to D drive, which is much easier to organize, create a folder. So those could be initial set of things which maybe you were living with it, but you can actually question that, discuss that amongst the group and ask, is this the place where the data is stored, or should it be changed to another one? So those are all small things which can actually reduce a lot of, I would say, it's not exactly frustration, but it could reduce a lot of factors, and it's easier for you to find the file and navigate. Okay, so we discussed about multiple and the single script. So I'm basically someone who follows multiple scripts. One single script becomes too much for me, because it becomes too difficult in managing, but there could be somebody here who's actually using one single script, no harm in it. So it's basically a right balance on who wants what. So if there's somebody who wants a multiple script, they'll do a multiple script. Who wants a single? So basically this I've just listed down what's plus and minus. One single script could be messy and confusing because it has all the steps in it. Have you looked at the IDEA script? IDEA script could be even more confusing because it's really huge. For a non-programmer like me, I find it a little difficult to understand. But yes, I'm here for the IDEA user conference. IDEA is a good tool, please. It's just that I don't understand the IDEA script. And multiple scripts, it enhances clarity. Each step gives you a clarity saying why is this carried out. It's easier for you to, anything which is given, even the dietitian says, eat everything in small portions 5 times a day. So it's like having one single meal, have 5 small meals. So I go by that logic, not that I tried that for my diet, but then it's small scripts which is going to help you out. Now this, again, visual and idea script. Both of them are very easily creatable, no harm at all. But then when you have to change the file, that's where you have to remember that each step might have a different file. So you will have to remember to change the name of your source, and you'll have to remember each step where this has to be changed. So this could become a little challenge for a person who has created it vis-a-vis someone else who is performing that function. So it's, that's why I felt idea was a little confusing for me, but there could be a case where you have a programmer who is doing it for you. That person would know easily where the source is. So visual script is something which is very simple. You just do a drag and drop and you create it. It's like your main menu, which comes from top, that's as a horizontal, whereas in visual it comes as a vertical, and you just do a drag drop. You can save the visual script also as an idea script, and you can carry those changes. So I'll give you a simple example on how to do it. Is Jairam here? So just in case, I'll try and do it. So I'll just select the file here. So this one sample which I had created. So these are the steps which you always carry on, right? So no change here. Yes, so you'll have to run the task. You say yes, the task is running. And after the task, now you know you've imported the file. What is the next step which we do? You open the file. So you go ahead and open the database. So you are selecting the file which you want. You're saying OK. Now I'll do a simple function of duplicate detection as ordered. So we're starting with a duplicate key. You see the fuzzy exclusion function. So let's start with detection. This is the usual screen which we have. Now what is the duplicate which I want to do here is, I'm saying the same associate who has the same transaction date, has the same transaction currency, and has the same transaction amount, has the same expense type. Now expense type is basically your nature of expense, like you could have many nature of expense. I'm just doing an example here to show that there could be some 4 or 5 levels which can be done. You can restrict yourself to just associate ID as well, or the employee ID. Okay, and I'm saying if all these combinations work, then please give me the duplicates. Oh sorry, yes, I'm running the task. Now that the file is done, I would also want to go and export this to Excel. So I will again open my database. Now if you see, this logic of parent-child, right, comes in. So you have the child. So I'm saying there are 11 records. I'll open the file as well. So there's some 11 records where all these criteria match. You're selecting it. You say OK, right? And now you want to export this. And you can just give a name. I tried exporting this in Excel, Jairam. It didn't work. Maybe because it's not the licensed version. So I'm just exporting this to Access. It's possible to export in Excel. It's not working in my laptop. So I'm just for the sake of showing. So we have a name, say for example, duplicate detection. I did some samples so as to ensure that I don't goof up when I'm actually doing the live session. So you just save it and you close it. So you see this. So I'll show you the original file which has so many transactions, right? Okay, these are the 49 odd transactions, and then these are the ones where you're saying that you have the same associate ID, same associate name, you have the same transaction date, same transaction currency, and the same amount being claimed by the associate, right? So we'll have this closed. So you're convinced now this is done. Now we'll go back and apply this to a different set of data. You don't have to delete it, but just because I don't want you to get confused, so I'm deleting it. It's like magician who's showing you magic, something which is not there is being brought in now. So you open, next month you open the visual script, and then you open the file which you've already created. So we did this duplicate detect, and you say open. All these steps are listed here. Now I generally use the first step as manual. Again, this could be automated, not necessary that it has to be manual. And I'll have to now manually go and select. So there were 2 data sets there, right? We first saw the data set of idea set 1, which had 49 transactions. And one thing, Jairam, is my observation is the sheet name has to be the same. Is that right? Yeah. So if you, in my first data set had the sheet name as sample A, my second data set also, this is the place, also has the name as sample A. Okay, so it's important that for you to completely automate the steps, you have to have the same sheet name. You can still do this manually if you want to, as in if you don't want to compromise on your sheet name, you can still do this manually. But then I thought sheet name doesn't make a difference because as long as your file name is right. So my file name could be different, but my sheet name has to be the same. This is the idea set 2, and you just say OK. And here you have, when you right click, you will have options saying run all steps, run selected steps, run from the steps selected, etc. So I'm just saying run all steps. You can, in case you have made any changes to the script, you can save it as another version. Otherwise, I have not done any changes. I don't want to save it, so I'm saying no. So if you see, you have 30 records and there were 5. Now forget this last step because I goofed up in the first step. But if you see 30 records and the same 5 steps were carried out. So if you see the history, it will show you what exactly was the duplicate detection. So we are saying that you have the same associate ID, you have the same transaction date, same currency, amount type. Give me those transactions. So it actually carries on the same step. So far, so good? Yeah. Now we'll copy this to idea. Okay. So, and one thing to be noted is if you have to copy all the steps, always go to the child file because that's the last file, not the first file. So this is how it looks like. So if you want to change the change which you made there, right? So here you have to do a change it to say it was set 1. You have to change here to set 1. Here you have to change it to set 1. This is the basicest which I've ever done. So I'm not, it could be a little more complex because these are the only 2 places where I have to change the file name. And I'm saying run. So the same script is going to run, but only thing is it will be, there'll be one more step. So if you see it's run on my first file, which was sample size of 40, 50 transactions, and I've got those 11 transactions here. Okay. So when you run it on Visual Script, it comes as 2 files on the corner. When you run it on the idea script, it actually opens up the file itself. So that's it. There could be other way of copying the idea file. I tried this version of, but it didn't work for me. But because I wasn't sure if that's the right way. So when you're doing this, when you're opening this, it also says there's an option of convert to idea script. It didn't work in my laptop version, but I think it can actually work. Maybe Jairam will be the best to answer that. So this is how we can simply, so you can do the same steps for any number of join or append functions. So all you have to ensure is your sheet names have to be the same, your file name could be different, but the sheet name. So I always have the first step as manual where I actually select my import file. That again can be automated assuming you have the same file name, because as long as you're clear on what exactly is the file which is going into it. I didn't show you the export, right? So we did the export as well. So if you could see the last one, 426. Okay, ignore this one. So this is what the file got exported. We carried out the export step, right? So this is where it is. So that's why I was saying that the other point about the C drive. So if you see the folder, 112671 is my ID. So it starts with C, then you go to ID user, you go to my document, my document, idea project, duplicate, etc. So it's always important for you to arrange your folder in such a way that you know where exactly anything or everything is getting stored. First is know your way to the folder, and then you can start doing the macro and know where everything is getting deposited or stored. I'll just give you a quick summarization. So we're saying scripts are useful tool for everyone to start off with. It's not that it has to be only a programmer who can do it. Start with simple baby steps. Nothing wrong or no harm in being babies, but it's always that energy and that passion to start or to work on improvisation. That's something which is very important. So if you have that enthusiasm, you can do anything. Where there is a will, there is a way. By hook or crook, you will get it done, but you have to first start and visualize what you want. And then you understand your objective. So I always believe that for you to know, what is your journey, you have to know your objective. That's very important, and that's why, even in all our training session, its objective is the first point which is being discussed. So that you should know what is the objective of the file, and then you decide what are my steps. Because you as the business user know what exactly is the data all about. You know what I get the data, whether it's structured, unstructured, how can I structure my data, how can I weed out the ones which I don't want. So understand the file, understand the objective, and accordingly you prepare a script which will suit your requirement. Maybe the first time you're not bang on, but then you have improvised. You've started with no automation to some automation, and then you improvise. And the other thing is always have some common naming convention or common standards to be adopted so that it's easy for doing a KT. It could be a role change, or it could be a business value proposition where you're developing this as a product for somebody else. So that's something which you can showcasing that you actually started off internally as a process to improvise your process, but then you have moved one step further and you've developed a product for your own internal customers, and you're trying to deliver it within your own company. So that's being too far-fetched, but you can definitely aim for that goal. So yes, we did talk about compliance, we did talk about how ease of data processing can happen, we did talk about time savings and all of that. Script is just a tool to get you there, but do you want to go there is a question which you have to answer yourself, saying that how do I go there and when do I want to go there, what is my timeline, and then you can start working on this. Thank you so much for patiently listening.